In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His last and beloved Messenger Muhammad. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. The title of this episode is Our Common Enemy. And this episode is a series entitled Reflections by the Guidance of the Quran. Now, in this series I put forward an event that happened to me in my life and how to reflect and ponder upon it from the guidance of the last revelation of Allah God to people in the Noble Quran. Now, the event in this episode is that so many people believe nowadays that Islam is the enemy, and so many people, they fight against Islam. Now, if we ponder and reflect upon this event from the guidance of the Quran, we see that Allah God Almighty states in the Noble Quran in chapter 2 verse 208 the following: O you who believe, enter all into peace, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Verily, he is to you an open enemy. So here we see that Allah God Almighty states that He wants peace, happiness and prosperity for all. So the message in the Noble Quran that Allah God Almighty wants peace, happiness, prosperity for all. But the one who wants destruction, havoc and pain is Satan. Allah states, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan. Verily, he is to you an open enemy. And Satan as an enemy, he doesn't want happiness for you, he doesn't want peace. He wants destruction, pain, havoc. So having said that, we need to understand how does Satan affect us to know that he is our common enemy. Now, the only book on the face of the earth which explains how does Satan affect us is the Noble Quran, such that we can learn from the Quran how does Satan affect each and every one of us as follows. It can be learned from the Quran that every one of us has a voice of oneself, and that's the voice you speak with. That's the same voice you hear in your head when you're thinking quietly to yourself. So when you are thinking quietly to yourself, you hear in your head a voice identical to the one you speak with, and it has a certain characteristic in style, in language and so forth. That's normal. Also, we can learn from the Noble Quran that every one of us has a companion devil, a devil assigned to him at birth, and it stays with a person till death. And Allah teaches us how does this companion devil affect us. In the Noble Quran in chapter 17 verse 64, which states, and befool them gradually, whom you can of them with your voice. So Allah Almighty teaches us here that this companion devil, he talks to you like a person talking to you. He engages you in conversation, and he tries to trick you with the thoughts contained in his voice. Now somebody might ask, I only hear the voice of myself, so where is this companion devil? Allah God Almighty answers this question in the Noble Quran in chapter 114 verse 4, which states, from the evil of the whisperer who hides. So the Almighty teaches us that this companion devil, he talks to you, but at the same time he hides from you, meaning that he does not make you feel his presence. So how can he accomplish this? The only way he can accomplish this if he matches his voice to the one you hear in your head. So your companion devil matches his voice with regards to tone, style, the languages you know, to the voice you hear in your head. And you hear ideas in your head, and you think that yourself is telling you these ideas, while actually it's your companion devil. And you can distinguish between the thoughts of yourself and those of the companion devil by analyzing the content of these thoughts, such as Allah the Almighty states in the Noble Quran in chapter 2 verse 169 the following: He, i.e. Satan, commands you what is harmful, sinful, and to say about Allah what you have no knowledge of. So we learn from this that Satan puts ideas of harm to hurt yourself and others, ideas of lust and perverted sexual ideas, and to say about Allah what you have no knowledge of. And he makes you hear these ideas in your head as if yourself is telling you this. So you can distinguish between the thoughts of yourself and those of your companion devil by analyzing the content of these thoughts. Now, having understood this, we see that Satan causes people depression. How? He comes to a person with a voice matching the one he thinks with, and he tells him in his mind as if he's hearing these thoughts, telling him, what's the purpose of this life? Well, nothing good will happen to you. So he puts him in a state of depression to cause him pain and despair. Also, Satan causes suicide. How? He whispers to a person by a voice matching the one he thinks with, and he tells him in his mind that there is no purpose of this life. Why don't you end your life? You'll be happier, and so forth. So he convinces him to commit suicide. Also, Satan causes us addictions. How? When a person, for example, he has a long, hard day, Satan, his companion devil, comes to him with a voice matching the one he thinks with, and he tells him in his mind that if you drink a little bit of alcohol, you'll just relieve your stress. And the aim of Satan in this is not to make a person feel better, but to cause him addiction to alcohol, intoxicants, drugs, to cause him pain and despair in this life and hereafter. Also, Satan causes a person to hurt himself. How? By whispering to him by a voice matching the one he thinks with. In his mind, he hears his thoughts, telling him that if you cut yourself and see blood, then you will be relaxed. Also, Satan causes people to commit crimes. How? He whispers to a person in his mind, telling him, for example, that this life is hard. So if you steal, it's not a big deal. You deserve it, and so forth. So he causes people to commit crimes. So we see that Satan is our common enemy, not Islam. Satan is our common enemy, not Islam. Now, also this enemy that causes you depression, addiction, suicide, hurting oneself and others, is the same one who whispers in your mind by a voice matching the one you think with distorted ideas about Islam. For example, he whispers to a person that Islam encourages killing people and wreaking havoc and so forth. So you see that Satan wants people to be driven away from the Quran, from Islam. Why? Because one of the main reasons that the Quran exposes this enemy for people. Allah the Almighty exposes Satan in the Noble Quran as a mercy unto you, to be saved from this. But Satan does not want you to know his secret, to know this knowledge you are hearing now. So he whispers all of that distorted ideas about Islam in your mind. Now this distorted idea about that Islam encourages killing and havoc, if we think about the Noble Quran, we see that the first verse of the Noble Quran, it reads, in the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful. In the name of Allah, God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. And you saw in this episode how the Noble Quran contains diagnosis and cure for mental disturbances. So how can Islam be a religion of killing and havoc? Another distorted idea that Satan whispers to a person in his mind, he tells him that Islam permits marrying more than one wife without any kind of condition. Well, actually, if we go to the Noble Quran and ponder upon the place where this is mentioned, Allah states in the verse about marrying more than one woman that if you are fearful that you will not do justice with the orphan, then marry more women of your choice in 2, 3, and 4. If we ponder upon this, there is a condition attached that if in a society there is the increase in widows and orphans, maybe due to wars, then in that case you can marry more than one woman, but there is a condition attached. If in a society there is an increase in the number of widows and orphans, and you are fearful that that orphan will not have support as as a father figure to him, then you can marry more than one woman, but the mother of that orphan. So it's the best form of bringing communities together and mercy onto the community. So it's the best form, it's kind of mercy onto people. So you see the purity of the message, but you see that Satan, he whispers to you in your mind as if you're thinking yourself with these ideas, all of kind of distorted ideas about Islam. And his aim is to drive you away from Islam, because if you go to the Noble Quran, you will discover how Satan affects you. But he does not want that. He wants to keep causing people to commit suicide, hurting themselves and others. Also, another kind of lie that Satan invented about Islam, that he whispers to people with a voice matching the one they think with, telling them that Islam belittles Jesus, peace be upon him. And this is opposite to the truth. The truth is that Jesus, peace upon him, is mentioned in the Holy Quran 25 times in the most beautiful manner. And his mother, Mary, peace upon her, Allah states in the Holy Quran that He honored her above the women of all nations. So how can this be belittling Jesus, peace upon him, and his mother? And this honor for the mother of Jesus, peace upon him, is not to be found in the book of authority of the Christians, the Bible. Another lie that Satan invented, that he whispers to people telling them that Islam does not have knowledge. It's a backward kind of religion. How can this be? You are hearing this episode, knowledge that's unknown to psychology today, which is what is the source of mental disturbances. Allah teaches us knowledge of the Quran is far superior to the knowledge of people nowadays. So, brothers and sisters, please understand what I'm saying. That our common enemy is Satan, is not Islam. Our common enemy is Satan, not Islam. Our common enemy is Satan, not Islam. And may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all.